Let's return to our top story this morning. And Israel has launched a series of fresh strikes in Gaza, warning that it will act against Hamas with increasing military force. Well, joining us now is a senior research analyst at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, Joe Truzman. Great to have you with us on Sky News this morning. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Now, what does this mean then for the current ceasefire? Because this is the biggest airstrike since the ceasefire began in January.
Correct. And first of all, thank you for having me on. You're right. This does affect the ceasefire. One can say that the ceasefire is effectively over. This wasn't just one airstrike like we have seen or what we have observed in the past few days and past few weeks here and there in the Gaza Strip. This is coordinated. This is large scale airstrikes, not in just one spot in the Gaza Strip, whether it's in the north or in the south, in the central Gaza Strip. This was everywhere. So this is, I could say effectively that the ceasefire is over. And that's what we're observing right now.
And exactly where are these strikes being targeted?
Correct. Right now, it's again, these airstrikes just happened over the last 2 hours. So we're still finding out who or what was targeted. But at least according to initial reports, both from Palestinians and from the Israelis, at least from the Israelis, they are targeting Hamas infrastructure. But again, it's still, these are initial reports. They're still, still strip and see exactly what happened. But nonetheless, my assessment is that Israel is going after Hamas and its Palestinian and other Palestinian armed groups, specifically Palestinian Islamic Jihad, which is another organization in the Gaza Strip that is quite active. So again, this is just a few hours into these airstrikes. We don't know if this is going to be long lasting. Is this just going to be one day? It's still early to tell.
And let's just explore a little bit more about what you were saying. You know, you're saying, of course, the ceasefire effectively is over. You're also alluding to the fact that, nobody really know kind of what's led to this. So let's just explore that a little bit more, because you have also mentioned that perhaps they're after some high value targets. So just describe that to us exactly, because a lot of people will be keen to know, looking at this ceasefire situation, what exactly has led to the events this morning.
Right. And I'm glad you brought up those points. So effectively, at least the way the Israelis see it, they're trying to get all the hostages back. And the way they view it, Hamas does not want to essentially play along or at least abide by the ceasefire, the rules of the ceasefire. However, now what we're seeing is actually for the last few weeks, we've seen a gradual increase in pressure by the Israelis against Hamas. And what do I mean by that? They closed the border crossings at the Gaza Strip. Now what we're seeing too is these punitive measures, airstrikes, right? There have been smaller airstrikes or limited airstrikes in the past few weeks, like I said before, here and there. Now we're seeing larger airstrikes, more broad. And as you mentioned, high-value targets. There were some commanders that belong to Hamas and Islamic Jihad that survived the war, all right? And specifically, Mohammed Sinwar, who is the brother, the former head of Hamas in the Gaza Strip, Yahya Sinwar. He, at least according to reports, is running Hamas in the Gaza Strip. There are other commanders as well that survived the war that belong to Hamas, that they may have been targeted in these airstrikes. Again, just happened a few hours ago. We don't know. We may not know for days or weeks, perhaps months, what happened. So there's still a lot to learn here. But I think the Israelis are targeting specific Hamas infrastructure. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if they're going after these commanders that I mentioned.
And Joe, let's explore then the current political situation in Israel. Is Netanyahu under pressure then to restart the war?
I wouldn't say he was under a lot of pressure to restart the war. There's a few problems for Netanyahu that he's experiencing right now. Specifically, he has the families, the hostage families, that have been asking him and demanding for this ceasefire because they need to get their loved ones back, right? Which is understandable. But at the same time, which is very important here, is that Israel, at least one of Israel's war objectives, is for Hamas not to rule the Gaza Strip after the war is over, all right? And what Hamas wants is quite the opposite. They want to continue ruling the Gaza Strip. So this is a problem that mediators up to this date have not been able to answer, all right? Not to be this obstacle they haven't been able to get over. So I think this is leading to what we've seen in the last few hours, these airstrikes. Again, I think it's Israel is trying to put this pressure back onto Hamas. Whether it's going to work or not, I couldn't tell you. However, I think we've reached this point where one way or the other, one side or the other is going to break. I couldn't tell you who.
And Joe, we've heard from Netanyahu's office, which of course has been very explicit in warning that it will act against Hamas with increasing military force. We've also had a statement from the IDF as well. Are we hearing anything from Hamas? What is it that you're hearing?
Right. Not much. The only statement that I've seen so far is observed from Hamas, essentially deriding the airstrikes in the Gaza Strip. They've also demanded that the mediators put pressure on the Israeli government to as well recognize that Hamas views these airstrikes as a violation of this ceasefire, all right? They want people to know that. They want the media to know that. They want the international community to know that. So right now, again, I think Hamas may have been caught a little off guard in these airstrikes. However, I think over the last month and a half, Hamas has been able to regroup a little bit, especially in the northern Gaza Strip, where they weren't able to before because of the IDF presence. So I think right now it's going to be more difficult for the IDF to tackle Hamas and other Palestinian armed groups, just because not only are there these armed groups have reconstituted their forces back into areas where they weren't before, but also we have to remember there's the presence of civilians. So that makes it much more difficult for Israel to reach those targets, especially those belonging to Hamas and Islamic Jihad and other groups.
Joe, thank you very much indeed for taking the time out to speak to us. This is Joe Truzman there, who's the Senior Research Analyst at the Foundation for Defense of Democracy. It's great speaking to you. Thank you.
Thank you.